welcome to this latest episode here at the Cherries in all departments of Cherry Picking. Remember, we are on the Talksport fan network as well, so you can listen to us on your chosen device, so Spotify, Apple Music, Google Playlists, or whatever it's called nowadays. You can find us. So, firstly, to the right of me, I have my main man, Matt Harrison. How you doing, Matt?
Yeah, all good, Craig. Looking forward to another weekend of football. Glad we've got a win under our belts. And it'd be interesting to see what happens in the transfer window.
And hopefully, fingers crossed, follow up that Carabao Cup win against Swansea with 3 points in the Premier League. That is the aim. And we do have a new member of the team. Just below me, we have Colin Byrne. How are you doing, Colin?
I'm good. Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for inviting me on. Very much looking forward to talking everything AFCB. Very exciting time to be on with the transfer window closing tomorrow. But I will say, please excuse all the colourful animal toy things around me. You can probably sum up what my life is at the moment. I'm currently sitting in my office/baby room at the moment. So, yes, very happy to be here,
mate.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
My bags aren't too bad, so I'm doing all right. Doing all right.
Well, I'll tell you what, Colin. Let's start off with a couple of your favourite players. So here we are.
Well, first of all, let's learn a little bit about Colin.
Exactly. Yes. Let's do that firstly.
I mean, Colin, how long have you been following the Cherries?
I've been a supporter since 1998. So how many years is that now? Wow. How many years is that? My maths
25 years.
Wow, 25 years. There we go. So, yeah, I went to my first game. I still remember my first game at the old Dean Court in the South End, stood behind the goal, back when you could stand on the railings behind the goal.
Oh, yeah.
It was home to Cambridge United. We won. We didn't win. We drew 1-1, and I remember that season because I remember getting home after the game and seeing on Meridian they were saying that Bournemouth are the draw specialists because I think we drew like the first 10 games of the season that year or something like that. So yeah, I've been a fan since '98. Season ticket holder when we moved to the new Dean Court in 2001. Worked at the club for a little bit about 10 years ago, and yeah, been following the club for a long time, and an unhealthy obsession with the club, even more so over recent years with all the exciting stuff that's going on. And just as a little side note, I don't know if you guys are the same, but I'm just pretty obsessed with Twitter or X, whatever it's called now at the moment, just constantly refreshing the AFCB hashtag for anything transfer related. It's actually an unhealthy obsession when it comes to this point in the transfer windows and it's the last few days. Just you're constantly refreshing, trying to see any like new breaking news. So yeah, that pretty much sums up my life in Bournemouth. So yeah, been a fan for 25 years, and yeah, pretty much sums it up, I think.
To be honest, it's a lot more exciting than it used to be, where we were scraping the barrel, trying to get players on the freeze, and now we've got a bit of money to spend. It's like, who are we going to be linked to next, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, I was thinking about this the other day. I remember the most excited I've ever been for a transfer before we got all the money in the Premier League was when we signed Matt Tubbs from Crawley. I remember there was such a buzz about that, and I still remember on social media when it happened. Like all the Crawley fans and all the external noises were saying, I can't believe he's going to Bournemouth. In a few years' time, Crawley are going to be a much bigger club than Bournemouth. Now look where we are. Yeah. And I still remember he scored I think it was against Notts County back in League 2 or League 1. He scored an absolute worldie, like one of his first goals for us to make it 1-1. And then Notts County went straight up the other end and made it 2-1. That's one of my memories of Matt Tubbs. But yeah, So times have changed a lot since then with the players we're signing.
Yeah. Definitely. I know it wasn't the summer window, but we did. To be fair, going back in time, we did sign some exciting players throughout the years. Of course, another Matt Ritchie. That was in the winter, wasn't it? Was that January time? We signed him from Swindon Town.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, if I remember rightly. Yeah, we were after Matt Ritchie for a long time.
That led to Di Canio leaving, didn't it? That caused his downfall at Swindon, if I remember rightly, because we went. Yeah. I think the transfer went behind his back, and we snatched him away, and he was outraged by it. So yeah, that's also a top tier transfer from years gone by.
Yeah, definitely. definitely. Well, let's have a little look at your 3 all-time Bournemouth players. So let's start off with number 1, and Steve Robinson, sorry. Robinson,
Robbo.
Robbo.
Yeah.
There we are. Steve Robinson. Go on, take it away.
So this is more of a nostalgia thing for me. When I first started supporting the club back in '98, he was our main goal threat, and I just remember being completely awed by how good he was and all the goals he scored. So, and I'm looking at those pictures on screen now. I honestly, that's one of my all-time favorite kits. That middle green and black stripe kit.
Yeah,
absolutely
iconic.
love that one. I'd love to see that one back. But yeah, he scored a lot of important goals for us. And I remember the first time I was genuinely devastated by a player leaving us was when I think he signed for Preston when he left us. I can't remember how much he left for.
I don't think 25,000. I think.
Yeah, I remember. I don't think his career really kicked on after that. I think it all went a bit downhill after he left us. But yeah, it's a bit of a nostalgia thing for me. I mean, back in the day, it was Steve Robinson. There was Mark Steen as well. Obviously, Big Fletch. Back in the day. But Steve Robinson stands out because of all the goals he scored. And he had a chant as well, and I was trying to remember what his chant was. I don't know if you remember what it was.
Oh, what was it?
Steve, I'm not going to try and sing it because I'll probably completely butcher it, but he definitely had a chant which I used to really like when I was quite young back then as well.
He did. Oh my God, what was it? Do you know what? That was spinning in my head sometime during this podcast, and we'll be talking about something completely different. I'm just going to start singing a Steve Robinson song, so do forgive me.
No objections to that. To be fair, we do need some new songs, to be fair, at Dean Court, so maybe we just bring that one back for old time's sake, for no reason.
Yeah, definitely. Why not?
He did do quite well towards the end of his career at Luton. I know.
Yes, of course he went to Luton, didn't he? I remember. I remember because when you asked me to name my top 3 players, I was trying to think back some of my memories of Steve Robinson. But one memory that sticks in my head is when we were at the new ground, the new Dean Court, must have been like 2001, 2002. I was thinking we were playing Preston, but it must have been playing Luton.
Yeah,
I remember Luton scoring. He didn't score it, but I remember him celebrating in front of us, in front of the North Stand back then, with the player when they scored and being absolutely heartbroken that he was celebrating scoring against us. So it was Luton. Yeah, that's who it was. So yeah, I'd forgotten. I think he spent a couple of years at Preston. Then not sure. I think he went to Luton, then back to Scotland. I think maybe might have that wrong.
I think he went to manage in Scotland, didn't he? I think he's is he still there?
I think he's St Mirren manager, isn't he? I think.
Yeah, I think he is. He was at where was he? Was he at St Mirren at one point?
Yeah.
Let me have a look.
I think he's at St Mirren now, I think.
Oh, St Mirren
he is.
Motherwell.
Yeah,
was it Motherwell?
Yeah.
Motherwell? I think it was Motherwell.
Because there's a time where
right.
I think it was after Tyndall left. I think when all the rumours were circulating about who could be our next manager, I'm pretty sure Steve Robinson was thrown into the mix at one point because he was Motherwell manager or he was St Mirren manager at the time. I'm not too sure how St Mirren are doing, to be fair. So.
Yeah, Scottish football's not my strong point. So
yeah, no.
I'm just having a little look actually at St Mirren, and last season he didn't do badly at all. He is their manager. They finished sixth, so albeit with a stadium that is a fair bit smaller than Dean Court. So not doing too badly at all. But then again, it is a league with 2 heavyweights in it, and nobody can get past them really.
So if you finish 6th, you've pretty much finished 4th, haven't you? To be honest,
yeah, pretty much
in the mini league. So yeah,
pretty much. Well, let's have a look at the next player. And wow, this man speaks for himself. But go on, take it away, Colin.
I mean, he needs no introduction. Mark Pugh, absolute legend, was here for so long, and I still remember the season we signed him. Another memory from years gone by. He was playing for Hereford, and he scored against us a few games before we signed him. I think we were winning 2-0, and he scored. I can't remember who was in goal back then. It might have been Shwan Jalal, but the keeper came well out of his box and lost the ball, and he just tapped it in. I remember him doing that, and then I thought, he looks quite decent. And then we signed him a couple of months later. So, but yeah, Mark Pugh, absolute legend. Never forget that goal he scored to get us in the Premier League back in 2015. Absolutely iconic. His Cruyff turn against West Ham in that first season in the Premier League, never forget that. And against Palace as well, when he scored there. Some absolute iconic goals, and just a really nice guy as well. Obviously, I didn't know the guy, but at the times I did bump into him a few times around the local area, and he was always really friendly, really polite, and he's continued that to this day. I think he's like doing a lot of cooking stuff now, like healthy eating stuff on social media. That's it. Yeah. So just an absolute exemplary example of the perfect professional. Gave everything on the pitch, gave everything for the club, always gave 100%, and just a really nice guy as well. And as I said, scored some really important goals.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. And I don't think any Bournemouth fan will forget that goal against Bolton Wanderers in that game. That set us on our way. It was just so well taken as well, wasn't it? Considering, a lot of there was so much pressure as well, on us before that match. And, he made it look easy, made it look really easy. Considering he'd been with the club for so long and taken us through the divisions, he'll forever be an absolute legend at this football club.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think when he scored that goal against Bolton, obviously the commentary is now iconic with our eyes, isn't it? The commentary for that one. Yeah. But when I think he did one of his trademark Cruyff turns for that goal as well, if I remember rightly, and then put it in top corner, hit the post and went in, I think.
Yeah.
Which was just, it sums up Mark Pugh. Be an absolute legend. And every single Bournemouth fan will agree. Absolute hero / legend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And let's have a look at the third one. And there he is. Wow. Steve Fletcher. Wow. Let's be honest. Steve Fletcher needs no introduction, but Colin, take it away with some memories of Fletch.
Oh, so many. The one that the main, obviously, the goal against Grimsby to basically save us as a football club. But the one that I think of is the playoff final back in 2003 against Lincoln. Yeah. That absolute I don't know what sort of kick you'd call it, like on the half volley turn. And it was just, I think it was like the first goal of the game, but it was 1-0 up. I think it was, and eased the nerves, and this trademark celebration as well. And it's just like, he's just absolute Mr. Bournemouth, isn't he? He's got a job for life. It's just like, I think it was Leicester away last season, or one of the games towards the end of the season last year. And, all the players are clapping the away fans. I think we just beaten Leicester and almost pretty much guaranteed our safety. And, all the players and all the staff are clapping the away fans, but he just comes right up to the fans and just like proper, like, sort of bumping his chest and putting his arms in the air. And he just absolutely loves it. He just absolutely loves the club. He's one of us. And it's just amazing to see after all these years. And, it's good. I see him around the town every now and then. He's local guy, local now. His whole family are down here. And he's still, I think he's player liaison officer now, I believe.
I
think this is the ideal role for him, I think. And it's weird, like when I speak to my dad about, because my dad's obviously been following the club longer than me, he remembers when he was first signed for us. I think it was around 92 that we signed him, or a bit later than that. I think it was Tony Pulis who signed him.
That's right. Yeah.
And my dad, he constantly reminds me of this, because obviously Fletcher's an absolute legend, but he tells me constantly the first season he was with us, he was absolutely awful. Apparently he was like completely hounded by the fans because he just had a terrible touch and couldn't like do anything. But then after that first season, he was absolute quality. So he said you'd never believe back then that he'd become a club legend and what he has become. Another memory, I remember he scored a great goal against Torquay back in League Two. That's another one I remember, because that was a last minute goal volley in the corner right in front of the away fans. So there's just so many memories, all the goals he got for us, all the celebrations, and he was, not only is he Mr. Bournemouth, as I alluded to earlier, but that goal against Grimsby, like if, he's pretty much one of the reasons that we actually survived as a football club, because if we'd lost that game and got relegated, who knows where we'd be now. So, legend, like Mark Pugh, obviously absolute legend. He's got a job for life, and I think that must be one of the when Iriola came in, I think one of the main stipulations, or when Parker came in as well, one of the stipulations must be you can bring whoever you like in, you can get rid of whoever you like, you just can't get rid of Big Fletch. He's here for life. You can't get rid of him. He has to have some role at this football club, and that'll be a case forever. And actually, looking at the pictures, I'm just looking at the pictures on screen. That is the goal from the playoff final, there, isn't it?
Yeah, the one with his head. Yeah.
It's quite interesting what he said, because I interviewed him about a couple of years ago now, wasn't it, Matt? You know, he actually reflected back on that defeat in 1998, and then turned around and mentioned, of course, the win in 2003 against Lincoln City, and that was his real driver. Was that he was so disappointed by 1998 that he was like, right, I need to put this right. I need to turn this round. And that goal, when it went in, you know, just kind of lifted that for him as well. So, you know, he is an absolute legend at this football club. And like you say, Colin, I think, you know, when you say about that goal, I know Eddie Mitchell has said before, oh, well, if, you know, we would have survived even if we did go down to the conference. I don't think, you know, that is realistic, considering the mess we was in, that Jeff Mostyn was trying to keep us afloat. I think it was a case of, if we had gone down, there was a real serious threat to this football club. Might not have happened straight away, but I think it would have been a long road back. But luckily we didn't have that. And of course, Eddie turned it around, and with Big Fletch in the team as well.
Yeah. I mean, a club legend. I mean, what else can we say that we haven't already said about Fletch? I mean, we should change this channel name to the Super Steve Fletcher channel, shouldn't we? Because he always crops up somewhere, doesn't he?
Well, exactly. He seems to appear on every single show. He loves it, though. You know, I think, believe it or not, on Twitter a little while back, you know, we didn't even mention him in the tweet, and he was just like, "Oh, cheers, lads for mentioning me again." You know.
Oh yeah,
appreciate it. And we was like, we didn't even mention you, Steve. You know, how have you found out? So yeah, Steve, if you're watching, you know, give us a thumbs up and let us know. There we go. So that
just
is
very quickly, right?
Go on.
Obviously, everything with Fletch. We can't forget his hat-trick.
Yes.
Brentford on the 1st of January 2005. That's the whole match on DVD there. Love it. Also, just want to go back to what Colin was saying about, was it the Cambridge game? You remember being a 1-1 draw?
Yeah. 98.
Can you remember the goal scorer?
I don't know. No, I'd have to go back and do some research on that. Probably Steve Robinson. No, I'm not too sure.
If it's the one I think I remember, and this is a picture here against Cambridge, Fletcher scores the equaliser after being 1-0 down, which has actually been signed by both Carl and Steve.
Another kit I used to love. Amazing kit. That's amazing. You got all these things to hand just for any situation.
Yeah. Craig's had the privilege of coming into my office here, and it is what would you describe it as? A treasure trail?
It's kind of like a temple of AFC Bournemouth. You know,
it's impressive from what I can see on the camera.
Oh yeah.
Well, a side note. Sorry to go off the agenda, but out of all those shirts behind you, what's your favourite of the Bournemouth shirts there? Because I see it's quite a few from years gone by. What would be your pick as the best one?
He's put me on the.
I know what one I would say, but I'll let you.
Out of just the ones I got behind me.
Yeah, those four.
Collection, because it's my entire collection. We'll be here for about 3 hours.
let's narrow it down to those four then. Let's see which one was your favourite.
Well, I definitely rule the 94-95 one out. And I would also rule the Cabrini away one.
Yeah, I've never found
it's
that.
It's a toss between this one and that one. But this shirt here, I think I was 15 years old.
Jermaine Defoe, wasn't it, that one?
Jermaine Defoe season. That was the first shirt I really fell in love with. That one.
It is really nice. That season.
I'm going to go with that one.
Yeah, that is, you're spot on there. That is the Jermaine Defoe on loan season, isn't it? Where he got 10 in a row. Yeah. That one just over your shoulder to your left shoulder. That one you're looking at. Yeah, that one is a bit nostalgic for me because that was the kit when I first started supporting the club. But yeah, that one with the white stripes, always very nice. Always looks lovely. That one.
Yeah, smash.
Was that? So I'm getting sidetracked here. Was that the season where we were at Dorchester before we moved to the new ground? Was that season?
Yeah, the season after, because the season after, the sponsor changed. It's still Seaward, but it was Seaward Vauxhall, I think, and the branding changed from Super League to TFG. But it was the same style kit.
Yeah.
That's the only difference to. But yeah, God, it's nice doing all this reminiscing. I must admit, you know me, Craig, I like reminiscing about the old times.
I know. And that one over your right hand shoulder, that is it's left hand shoulder.
Yeah,
right,
I was getting confused with that. Yeah,
that is of course the auto windscreen shield final kit.
That's the auto windscreen shield one. Yeah, definitely.
Excellent stuff. We could be there all day with the shirts, and we will do a shirt show eventually. We will get round to that.
It's in the process. It is
in the process. We will get it done.
Episode 1 has been recorded.
Yes. Yeah, he's sat there waiting to go, isn't it?
Brilliant.
Well, Bill Foley was interviewed the other day, wasn't he, on what used to be BT Sport, now TNT Sports. And what I'll do is I'll run through what he said, and then we'll have a little bit of a discussion about it. So, here we are. Foley speaks. Club owner and chairman speaks to TNT before Spurs clash. So, when asked about Bournemouth, Bill began, I love it. I love Bournemouth and I really love being with this team. It's a dream of mine for years and years to be involved in the Premier League. Unfortunately, we had an opportunity about a year ago or so, 9 months ago. I'm having a great time. Asked why Bournemouth, Foley said, firstly, it was for sale. I was offered a number of opportunities with other teams at various times, but as always, a minority ownership, maybe 10, 20 or so. This was an exciting opportunity to buy 100% of the team with some of my partners. And so if a mistake was being made, it was on me. It's not on someone else. And I can only complain to myself, can't I? When asked about the difference between ice hockey franchise and owning a football club, Foley said, really, they are very similar in many different ways. The way you culminate players and build a team in the Premier League is different. We have very strict rules. We have had a hard sale recap, 83.5 million. You can't go above it. We also have different ways of acquiring players. It's very strict. There's no hijacking in the NHL. Here, you can keep on talking to players all the way through and the agents. So in that way, it's very different. Asking any players have been hijacked under his leadership, Foley goes on to say, well, Nicholas Jackson scored a goal last night, of course. We tried to get him back this year. We had him last year, and I believe we made a mistake. He didn't pass his medical, but actually he played much sooner than we thought he would. So I'm sorry we didn't get him. Asked if pre-match entertainment in the NHL is transferable here in football, Foley said, we're not going to change what's already here in the Premier League, the traditions that people are used to seeing, but Las Vegas is the entertainment capital of the world. So if you ever have a chance to go to a game, we're entertaining and we're different. And then Peter Crouch asked Bill Foley how the fans differ between the two sports. Foley continued, well, they aren't that different. If you don't win, then you've got a problem. But we've been sold out every night in the 6 years we've been in existence. Our fans are crazy in terms of supporting the team, always with it. If we're 4-2 down 4-2, they are still with the team, still with the game. I've got to motivate our fans here a bit more. We are going to do that by building a new stadium, have more seats for people to come to games. That's the plan. First, we have to finish the training ground facilities. Once that's done, we can move out the training facility here. We can start working on our new stadium. So probably 2 to 3 years off. And then Foley was asked about the sacking of Gary O'Neill. Foley explains, we love Gary O'Neill. He kept us up. He did a great job. The technical staff and Neil Blake, myself, talked about this a number of different times. We thought if we were going to change the makeup of the team, the way we play football, we may need a new person to lead us, and Donny become available. And it was really not something that was pre-planned last November or last January. I honestly thought Gary O'Neill would be our coach today, and Donny became available in the middle of May, and I felt like I wanted to be a bit more aggressive on the pitch. I didn't want to miss the opportunity, but I do wish Gary O'Neill all the best. He's a good guy, and I like him, and I know he'll do well at Wolves. And then Peter Crouch asked about the qualities that Iraola brings to his side. Foley tells him, well, Andoni is a very aggressive player. We are going to be pressing all the time. And that's one of the things we have been doing during the transfer window, is trying to develop, acquire players that can play in Andoni's style. And I believe we've done that. Some of them are hurt right now. So in ice hockey, we are an aggressive hockey team. We obviously won the Stanley Cup, and we did it by having a good defence, but also having offence. A lot of offence, and I think you will see a difference today in our team, and it will keep on changing as we evolve this year. But I'm happy that Andoni is our man. And as I said, if there's a mistake being made, it's on me. So, what is our thoughts on Bill's interview? Who wants to go first with this?
Colin,
I can go first. Yeah.
Yeah, go for it, Colin.
Well, firstly, I just love Bill. Uncle Bill, just great, isn't he?
Yeah.
Well, it's just, I know this has been said so many times since he came in. It's just so refreshing to have this open dialogue with him. He's so open and honest about his ways of thinking. Like, he hasn't shied away. Like, people have asked him the question about, sacking Gary O'Neill, and he's not shied away from it. He's addressed it head on. He's answered the question. I mean, that the fact he brought up about Nicholas Jackson is really interesting, because, he had no need to really mention a name at all, but he went to the specifics there. So it's good that there's an open dialogue, and it's the same with Jim Ferrola as well. Yeah. On Twitter and social media. Like, these guys are very open with the fans, and they're very transparent about their ways of thinking. Obviously, there's some things that have happened recently that I've got a few fans a bit upset about it. But in terms of what he's saying all the right things. He's saying all the right notes. I mean, most of what he said in that interview is pretty much stuff we already knew, to be honest, about the training ground and the stadium a couple, 2-3 years off. It's interesting to know if he meant that the building of it's 2 or 3 years off, or whether he envisions it being open in about there being a new ground in 3 years, which probably would be a push. Mm-hmm. So I imagine he probably means building will start. Though I saw, this is social media again, I haven't verified this, but he did say apparently in another interview that potentially the end of next year they'd be looking to start building, or at least have plans submitted for a new stadium. So, every time he speaks, everyone gets a little bit more excited by what he says. So yeah, it was a great interview. I really liked the honesty of him, and he's explained why he made the decision. Well, they collectively made the decision to part ways with Gary O'Neill, which will make sense. Yeah, it's great. And I don't know where this came from, but I always refer to him as Uncle Bill. I don't know whether anyone else is saying Uncle Bill, or if it's just me. But I swear, like, other people on Twitter are saying Uncle Bill as well. I don't know where it's come from. It just seems to fit, calling him Uncle Bill. Obviously, just to look to the past, Max, obviously, what he did for us, amazing. Just a completely different style of ownership with these two guys. But I like what they're doing. I like the changes they've made to the ground. I like how they're being proactive in trying to progress the club off the pitch and on the pitch. Supporting with player transfers and the training facility and the stadium. I mean, we'll probably get on to some of the other things that have been changed recently, which potentially haven't gone down so well. But yeah, it was a great interview. And I think pretty much everyone in the media who watched it, because eyeballs were on it because we were playing on TV in Spurs. I think a lot of other supporters who don't support our club have now seen, oh, this guy actually means business, knows what he's talking about. And just one final point on it. He's done his research as well, because he's come into this sport that he's potentially had no understanding of, but he talks as if he's always been following football. It's really is quite, I mean, he might have people doing the research for him, but it's really good that he always has an answer to questions. He knows his stuff. He understands the division. He understands the clubs. He even made a reference in an interview earlier in the year that he'd like us to do similar to what Brighton have done, in a few years' time, try and get to Europa in 2-3 years' time, which shows that he knows what's going on. He's not just like somebody who's pumping money in and letting other people do the work. He actually knows his stuff and wants to understand and wants it to work. So, yes. To sum up, I'm very happy with the interview. It was a very good interview.
Yeah, completely agree. In fact, that interview was, I believe, on Talksport, wasn't it? It was an interview where I actually spoke afterwards, and in fact, it is on the channel as well. So if anybody wants to listen to that, they can scroll back, because Talksport did give us the rights to actually use that. But I think it's exciting times for the football club. I think now the training ground, is being built. Hopefully, we'll get up to Category 1, be able to actually build on, on the new old training ground. Also attract the decent talent that is in the area. So effectively, a lot of players years ago used to go to Southampton as they were Category 1. If we can get ourselves up to Category 1, we'll be able to attract the very best talent out there. They won't want to leave. They'll have the best coaches. I think it's about 2.5 million a year that would have to be shelled into it, but it's exciting times. And this new stadium, as much as I'd love to stay at the current Dean Court, moving literally yards away isn't as bad as moving out of town or moving into somewhere that's not accessible to get to. I guess it's one of those things where we can't really expand the current ground, regardless of what Eddie Mitchell said. They probably looked at this and thought, right, okay, maybe we could expand the current Dean Court, add some more seats on, but at the same time, what are we going to do if we sell out that ground? With a new ground, it's easier to put a tier on top, and it's a bit like a Lego set, really, isn't it? Where, you can lift the lid off it, put another tier on if you wanted to. So it's exciting times. I think Bill's here for the long term. He is 77 years old, keep in mind, but I think he's here to build a legacy for this football club and then sell it on, eventually for a lot more than what he paid for it.
Yeah. Agree. Just a note on the stadium. Obviously, I think from the things he's been saying, I think it is likely it probably will be in Kings Park where we stay. We'll just move it over. So where the south stand is, that'll probably be where the north stand is in terms of pitch layout. But I think the main thing to consider as well on that is the infrastructure as well, getting in and out of Kings Park, because it's without 11,500 capacity, it's already quite difficult to get in and out of the ground on a match day. So I think it's going to be a wider project with the council. Stadium all well and good, but there has to be more ways or easier access in and out of the Kings Park. But as we said, I'm sure they're planning this behind the scenes. They know they need to do that. They're not silly. They've done their research. So it's very exciting times. And I know this time next year they're planning the training facilities to be complete. I think autumn next year, isn't it? So yes, it's going to be an exciting. Well, it's already an exciting time. It could be even more exciting this time next year.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, that interview for me. I mean, just every time you hear him speak, it sends a message to me saying that the club's in good hands and it's in the right hands. Obviously, with previous ownerships over the years and stuff, the troubles we've had over the years. And now, the likes of, Eddie Mitchell come in, stabilised it, took it as far as he could. Max come in, took it to a whole different level, to the point where someone like Bill Foley can come in and obviously do what he's doing. And I just think everything he says, like kind of what you said, Colin, it just excites you. Every time he says a word, it excites you. And I think that, the stadium, for me, wouldn't be surprised if it is done in 3 years' time, because I know they're doing a lot of work with the council. The council are meant to be playing ball. But like you say, Colin, it's the infrastructure around King's Park that's going to be the tricky bit. But yeah, what a guy! What a guy!
Mm-hmm.
But what else can you say about him? And look what he's spent in the transfer window. Look what the club's actually done. I mean, over 100 million at time of recording, and 20 years ago, we couldn't find 100 grand for a player, let alone 100 million. So it just proves how far that the club's gone, and what kind of power that Bill Foley has in the transfer market.
But the good thing is as well, Matt, is he's not spent that 100 million on one player or two players and thrown money about willy-nilly. He's actually gone and invested in the future as well. So the likes of Alex Scott, Tyler Adams, Max Aarons, Kirkes. You're looking at all these players, even Clivert. You could say all these players will be great for the future. They'll probably have a lot of sell-on potential. Don't get me wrong. We can't turn around and say, okay, if Clivert does really, really well, and say, for example, Manchester City want to sign him or Man United want to sign him, and then throw 80 million in our direction or something like that, you can't expect Bill Foley to turn around and say, no, we're keeping him. We don't want your 80 million. I think what will happen is that we will effectively go through a bit of a stage where we are a little bit of a feeder club for, but we are then replacing that player with somebody else who, A, is not breaking the bank, but B, has got a lot of potential. And that's what Brighton have done, is they've bought in Casado, Alexis McAllister, all these players, the list goes on, bought in these players for literally next to nothing, and then sold them on for a lot more. And that's their business model. And I think that's the business model that Bill Foley is going to aim for. Probably with a bit of a mix of the Brentford business model as well, which is a little bit different. But it's exciting times. And I think, everything he says makes perfect sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree. But while we're on the subject of money and transfers and comings and goings, should we take a look at what potentially could be going on, or what's going on in this wonderful world of the transfer window?
Yeah, why not? Why not? Let's have a little look, because there is a lot of rumours bounding around on Twitter, or X as we call it. What do you call it, Colin? Did you still call it Twitter X? I don't even know what to call it now.
I still call it Twitter. X just sounds silly to me. It's Twitter, tweeting.
Yeah, exactly. Let's have a look at some of the players that are being mentioned. So it is fast approaching. Mark McAdam is going to be very, very busy over the next 24 hours, probably 48 hours actually. So let's have a look at the players that are being rumoured. So Jamal Lowe, of course, current player. He is being linked with a whole host of clubs. So QPR, Hibs, Portsmouth. Mark McAdam says that Norwich are ahead in the race to sign him. Sheffield Wednesday are said to be entering negotiations. And to be honest, if Mark McAdam says Norwich, that is probably quite a good person. Oh, well, Mark McAdam's always quite reliable. But I think that's probably the best move for him as well.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Link up with Jack Stacey at Norwich.
Yeah, Norwich would be a good move. I mean, I think any of the clubs there, in fairness, for him would be a good move. Because I mean, he just needs to be playing football, doesn't he? When I saw him play for the development squad at Poole Town during the summer, and as soon as you saw him with the development squad, you knew that he was going to be part of the first team plan. So, I mean, for him as a footballer, it is crucial he gets a move, and I think any of the clubs there would be ideal. Obviously, Pompey, being League One, I'm sure he'll want to keep his standard, probably Championship and Scottish Premier. If any of the Hibernian rumours are true, but like we say, Mark McAdams normally spot on, and I think Norwich would be a great club for him to go to because obviously they got probably more potential than Sheffield Wednesday and Queen's Park Rangers of probably getting promoted. So he might be able to have another crack at the Premier. So,
of course, he has got affiliation though with Portsmouth. That's the only thing that makes me wonder why he might go back there, because he did play for a long period of time with them. Was that when they was in League Two?
Yeah, I think
Managed to
he was
get him up
part
to
of
League
their.
One, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think he was part of their promotion when inside.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think he's. I know he was on loan at QPR last season, but I think probably from his sort of way of thinking, he's probably looking at the Championship. I can't see him dropping any lower.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Championship is. I think there's quite a lot of. Obviously, there's the clubs listed here, but I'm sure there's a lot more clubs interested in keeping
I heard
tabs on what's
West Brom
happening.
as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
Brom. I mean, that'd be another good club for him to go to.
Mm.
Is there any other ones you know of, Colin?
I think they're the main ones. I mean, looking at those clubs, I mean, I saw a rumor earlier today on X or Twitter about him, about Hibernian, as you've listed there. And sorry to anyone who's a Scottish football fan, but I think that'd be too much of a drop to go to Hibernian, because if we played them in pre-season and they, I think it was in the Europa Conference qualifier, they lost to someone or something like that, and they look really poor.
5-0 to Villa.
Oh, sorry. Yes, of course it is. It's Villa. Yeah, I think they're playing right now, aren't they, in the second leg?
Lee Johnson was manager, wasn't he? Hasn't he? He's been sacked.
Yes, he's been sacked. Yeah,
as well, aren't they?
I watched that I didn't go. I watched it on the stream, that pre-season game, and they look really poor. Hibernian, really poor side. So I think the Championship is where he'd want to go. And as you correctly said, out of all those clubs, I think the best project there is Norwich. They look like they're on their way up. They've had a good start to the season. They made some good signings. QPR. From what you're seeing, they're a little bit of a mess at the moment under Ainsworth there at the moment. Sheffield Wednesday, I don't think they've won a game so far this season.
No, they haven't.
So yeah, I think Norwich that'd be a good place for him to go. And I think he's one of those players who, what's the saying? Like, he joins us at the wrong time. I think any other time he would have been, much more present on the team sheet. But yeah, I would say out of those, I can't see him dropping to League One. I understand about the affiliation with Portsmouth, but I think Norwich would be the best place. And I think looking at the rumours and the rumblings online, and from what we're hearing from the reporters in the know, I think it's almost like guaranteed he will be going somewhere before the deadline closes tomorrow.
The other two teams that are listed on there at the moment, and it is fairly new news, is of course West Brom, which was mentioned, and also Stoke City has been mentioned as well.
From a feeder club for Stoke City, taking all our players.
Yeah, exactly. They've already got Ben Pearson. They've got Mark Travers on loan.
We might as well just stay here then, so we can play for Stoke when we have them in the cup, in the Carabao Cup at the end of the month. But I mean, yeah, Stoke's. I mean, all those are quite exciting. I mean, West Brom, yo-yo club traditionally. Stoke have had a good start to the season. They've made some good signings as well. So Stoke or Norwich, out of those two, I think would be the best place for him.
I think if I was Jamal Lowe, just looking at this, I would probably stick with what we've already said, which is Norwich. I think Norwich look very, very good. I believe are they in second place, aren't they, in the Championship at the moment? I know it's early days, but
towards the top, yeah, I think they probably are. Yeah, they've had a good start to the season.
They're going to be I think they're going to be very good, and they're really going to push for Premier League football. The other thing, though, you might want to think about is, okay, if I get back to the Premier League, who are Norwich going to sign? Will I get my game in the Premier League? Will I be able to get a chance? It's like that never-ending revolving door, isn't it? I think Macondes has experienced that a bit, hasn't he?
Yeah, but I think you got to take the risk. I mean,
Yeah.
you only get one playing career, and if it doesn't work out, you can always drop down again. So for me, I mean, Norwich, I think.
Yeah.
Because then, you know, if they do sign somebody and the same situation happens to him again, where he becomes, you know, like last season, a bit part player, then shipped out on loan, then so be it. But I think, you know, you've got to, I think from his perspective, you've got to try and grab that chance of success again if it lands on your doorstep. So, yeah, I reckon, like Colin says, Norwich or Stoke City sounds like a good project. So yeah, I would say probably one of those two clubs, but I'd probably edge more towards Norwich.
Well, let's have a look at the next player. And Kiefer Moore has also been linked away from the club. So he's been linked with a move back to Cardiff or Sheffield United. Now, the Cardiff have admitted a deal appears to be difficult to complete. Now, this is an interesting one. Personally, if I was Kiefer, I would go to Sheffield United. But again, does he really want to sit on the bench? You know, if he goes to Cardiff, he probably is going to start majority of the games. He's going to be a big target man. They used to play to his strengths. Of course, they had Warnock there at one point, and kind of stayed in that sort of style for quite a period of time. It went off the boil there, nearly got relegated into League One, but what do you guys think? Should Kiefer go to Sheffield United or Cardiff City? I think he's probably played his last game for us, though.
The most important thing for me is if this guy goes out the door, we've got to bring somebody in. I mean, that's the first thing. Now, you know, I mean, I don't know Colin's thoughts are on Kiefer, but I'm sure he'll tell us in a second. But you full well know, Craig, that I've always said if we have Kiefer as a plan B and we play to his strength, he would have scored some more goals for us, definitely. But my major worry is that if he doesn't form any part of Iriola's plans, which we'll have a look at next, who are we bringing in? Because at the moment, the side, you know, individually are playing well. You can see what Iriola's trying to, you know, implement. You know, he's trying to get his philosophy across. It's going to take a little bit of time. Obviously, we've got players still to come back into the fold that are injured. But from watching the Spurs game and watching parts of the Liverpool game, where are goals coming from? Just what I mean. And this, you know, I know he's not scoring bag loads of goals for us, but if we're letting this player go, surely there's got to be option to bring someone in.
The other thing as well with Kiefer Moore is he offers something different.
Yeah.
It's such a difficult one with Kiefer Moore. I don't know how I feel about Kiefer Moore, to be honest with you. Do I love him or hate him? I don't know. I think he would only be allowed to leave. I mean, Andoni's come out with an interview I saw recently where he's saying that he's part of his plans and you'd only leave if we got a replacement in. So I think unless, you know, obviously they're doing work behind the scenes at the club, unless they're definitely certain they can get one over the line, a striker to replace him, I don't think he's going to go anywhere. But if he does go, I mean, looking at those Cardiff or Sheffield United, I mean, obviously Sheffield United are, from the signings they're making, it looks to me like they're sort of preparing for relegation back to the Championship. So potentially that's what their mindset is with getting him in, because I think, as you alluded to, I don't think he would start for Sheffield United, to be honest with you, in the Premier League. It's a difficult one. You know, he scored a lot of important goals and I'll rise up to the Premier League. And he scored some important goals last year, actually, the early part of last year. But as you said as well about playing to his strengths, it just feels like we've not played to his strengths for a very long time.
Absolutely.
When we had O'Neill, when there would be times when O'Neill would put on Kiefer Moore when we're chasing a game, but then Kiefer's running into the channels to get the ball. You don't want him running into channels. You want him in the box for Bill to cross it in. It's ridiculous. Like, in fair play, he gives everything when he comes on. He's running for everything. He's chasing everything down. He always gives 100%. And I'm of the mindset that if we can play to his strengths, say if he doesn't go, say if he stays after the window closes, if Andoni can play to his strengths I do think the way Andoni wants to play, we would play to his strengths because we've got the wingers who want to cross balls in the box, which is ideal for what Kiefer wants. But even the first 3 games of this season, when we were chasing an equaliser against West Ham and obviously against Liverpool and Tottenham, I've just not seen that, to be honest with you, in the way we've played. And that might be because we've not been able to properly implement the style because we've got so many injuries at the moment. But I mean, if he does stay, I wouldn't be completely devastated by it because I think there potentially is a part for him to play as long as we play to his strengths. But also, if he does go, I would hope, and I'm sure this is the case, we would have a replacement for him because if he goes, we are very light in attacking options. We're already light in attack, to be honest with you, but even more so without Kiefer. But yeah, it's a debate that's raging online. Some people love him, some people hate him, some people can't wait for him to go, some people don't want him to go. But yeah, I think he's going to be one of the main discussion points over the next 24 hours online and all the rumours. It's going to be very interesting. I think there's a lot of people waiting on us to make a decision because I think as soon as we find a replacement or we go ahead and try and get another attacking option in, I think there'll be a lot of clubs who will be jumping in to try and get him in the Championship.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. And I think, against Lorient, I felt Iriola found something different out of him. He was kind of dropping back a little bit and, make it. But then again, he's a little bit of a target man. And that's not the way we're wanting to play. Yes, when chasing games, throw the ball into the box and trying to get Kiefer Moore's head on it, it's a different tactic altogether. However, I would say that, I've got so many fond memories of Kiefer Moore, especially after that goal against Nottingham Forest in that big decider.
Yeah.
It was just well, to be honest, Phil Billing and, Kiefer just teed that up. That was straight off the training ground, and full credit to them. And probably we've got to give credit to Scott Parker for that as well. But personally, I think his game time is going to be limited here to the odd cameo, and that's probably not what he wants. And like Andoni Iriola said here as well, even though he's backed the player, he's put, no, right now we have 3 forwards with the option of Justin Kluivert, so we're happy with Dom, Kiefer and Ant. I think we have different options. You never know what could happen last day as the market, but we're not especially looking at this movement. Asked if he expects Moore to stay at the club, Iriola replied, yes, right now this is the situation. We can never guarantee with any player. Sometimes circumstances change from one hour to another, but but this right now is the situation. He added, I wouldn't talk about specific names. It is about what the market gives you right now in the last days. If the club sees that there's a chance to sign a player who can help us, but now is not that we need specifically one position. It is more we can improve the team or we cannot. We need to take these decisions. And personally, I think even though he's backed the player, I think he's basically turned around because, let's be fair, Semenyo and Solanke appear to be up the pecking order. I'm sure Justin Kluivert would be as well. So maybe it's fair on Kiefer Moore to let him go once the right player is found. But I think we need more attacking options anyway. And we need somebody who's a little bit prolific, who can do a little bit more work, not just somebody who's a bit of a target man.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
The problem is that's what every other club's wanting, is a prolific goal scorer. Yeah, it's just
How many
so
of them
hard
are
to find.
there? That's the problem.
Exactly. And if there are any, they ain't coming to clubs like Bournemouth. They're going to all the top elite clubs. They're
not going to come cheap, are they?
And that as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, let's go on to the next part, which this cannot happen.
No
Dom
chance.
Solanke,
No chance.
who's
Not
been
gonna.
linked with West Ham.
Absolutely
not gonna
not.
happen. No way. I mean, it'd have to be. How much do they get for Declan Rice? 100 million. They can have 100 million.
Like that.
We'll take
Something.
Nothing less. Yeah, it's not going to happen. I saw that rumor where they called and inquired about his availability. I think we laughed it off and hung up on them. So, yeah, he's not going anywhere. No chance.
No, absolutely not.
I think he would fit in at West Ham, but at the same time, there is no way we can afford to lose Dom.
It would have to be crazy money. It'd have to be Saudi Arabia style money for him to even consider letting him go, especially to a team like West Ham. I know West Ham have had a good start to the season, but potentially going to be, a rival with us towards the lower part of the table.
And what you got to think about as well is Dom, although he isn't again a prolific goal scorer, he does so much more work. And if you take that sort of player out, I think Semenyo is probably quite similar. But those two, if you can play them together, get them working together, that could be the key to unlock this season. Which I think is what Iraola is trying to do at this moment in time. It might just take a little bit of time to actually get it working. But West Ham, 55 million. No, thanks. No, we don't want West Ham's money. So let's move swiftly on. Now this is interesting.
Hot off the press this evening.
Yes, Lloyd Kelly. Spurs are looking at potentially launching a bid for Lloyd Kelly as they look to strengthen during the window after losing key players. Early sources say Eric Dier could come the other way. And you know what? Eric Dyer. Oh, Dyer. Eric Dyer. I can always call him Dier.
To be fair, I'm primed for mispronouncing names, so I'm not going to say anything.
To be honest, I was calling Tabania Zabarini, so I made him Italian for a little while. But personally, I would snap this up. Now, Lloyd Kelly, it comes under a lot of stick from our fans, and I think a lot of it is very unjustified. I think he does make mistakes. Let's be honest, Gary O'Neill did. There's so many players throughout the years that made mistakes. But I think the worst game he had for us was that Burnley game in the FA Cup last season. He was atrocious. I don't think he'll turn around and say, well, that's unfair. I think he was atrocious in that game. However, it's how you react from playing atrociously. If you react in the right way, which Lloyd Kelly did, he did lose the captaincy. It meant he could focus more on his game, which I think was a great move from Gary O'Neill. I think you look at it that way, there's a lot, that he deserves credit for.
Yeah,
but I would still cash in.
I mean, I think isn't his contract up at the end of the season?
I think it's next summer, isn't it?
Next year?
I think, yeah. I mean, sorry, I've got that.
How much do you reckon is there any rumours with the actual transfer fee at all?
No, all we've had is this tweet from, I'm going to mispronounce this name.
Oh, Fab.
Fab on everyone. If you're on Twitter or X, you know who Fab is. He's the king of the transfer rumor. There was no mention of a fee on there, but it would be interesting to see. I mean, we don't want another Lerma situation where we lose a player for free, especially if a team like Spurs is interested. So if he's not going to sign a new contract, this potentially could be the right time to cash in. But in terms of how much, that is that is one people are debating. I mean, I saw as part of the deal that they, as we mentioned, they potentially would look at offering us Eric Dyer. So I don't know what that effect that would have on the amount, but it's sort of like plucking numbers out of nowhere. It's really difficult to know how much they would give us for Lloyd Kelly.
I mean, I personally think you're right there by saying, probably time to cash in. I've never, Craig would tell you, I've never been a fan of Kelly at centre back. Never been a fan of him there in that position. I felt that, even during the Championship season when we were promoted, I felt that he made mistakes in that position. I think he's better to play centre back. I think he needs to be part of a back three, or he needs to play left back for me. Whereas the situation with the striker, this is a different situation because we have got probably enough to cover losing this player. I would say, personally. And I think if he's not going to sign a contract, like you said, Colin, I reckon, and if we swap him for Eric Dyer, now I know Eric Dyer's come under a lot of scrutiny at Spurs, and obviously he's lost his England place as well, hasn't he? He's not been in the England squad for a while, has he?
No. He had a good World Cup in 2018, though, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Now, is he a player that could come in and, kind of be our man that brings experience to the back four? Quite possibly. But then he's a bit versatile as well. He can play in front of the defence. He can play in midfield. So he's a bit versatile as well in that respect. So I think, to be honest, if they dangled Eric Dyer in front of us for Lloyd Kelly, I'd bite their hand off, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
With no money swapping hands, just a swap, player swap.
I'd like some money as well.
Yeah, that's kind of where probably the ball's probably a little bit more in Bournemouth's court, isn't it? It's all right for them to want to dangle Eric Dyer, but then Bournemouth can turn around and say, well, we still want 20 million.
I was just looking to see how much we signed Kelly for back in 2019. It was 13 million.
13,
we got him from. So maybe 15 million would probably, without a player, would probably make sense. Yeah. Well, and I agree. I personally, there's been a lot of sniffy comments online about Eric Dyer. I would be very happy as a replacement for Kelly. As you said, he brings. We've got a good roster of players for the back line, but we're missing that person with a lot of experience in top elite level football. And Eric Dyer would fit the bill. He's got experience. Obviously, Spurs top team. He's played under some really big managers. He's played for England, and as you say, he can play in the defensive midfield role as well. So I'd be all for it. And I still think back to the game last year at Dean Court when we threw away the 2-0 lead against Spurs, or we lost 3-2, and Eric Dyer was one of the subs that Conte made in that game, and he changed the game for Spurs. He did. He brought a bit of calm to their back line, and he basically dictated their play from that point on. So people seem to forget about that. And people can have bad games or whatever, and obviously he's playing for England, he's playing for Spurs, he's going to be in the spotlight more. But I'd be very happy with that. It'd be sad to see Kelly go. The thing with Kelly for me, he's always prone to the mistake. The misplaced passes, that's the one thing for me, that's the thing that's so common with him. The misplaced passes just so much. Even when he played against Spurs on Saturday, there was a few moments where oh God, he did okay against Spurs. I thought he was all right, but so as we said, out of contract, if we can get the right amount for him now, cash in or a swap deal of Eric Dyer, I'll be happy with either of those options, to be honest with you. We're well covered in his positions, so I wouldn't be too upset about it.
Eric Dyer is 29 years old, so he's a little bit older, than Lloyd Kelly. But
easily
like still
got 4 years out of him at top level, isn't you?
Yeah. He probably doesn't fit the mould of what AFC Bournemouth are trying to do, but at the same time, that experience is sometimes really invaluable. And I think
look at the kind of effect Gary Cahill had when he come in.
Exactly.
Exactly.
You know, and Cahill for me, you know, I mean, I know he had the injury and stuff like that, but I mean, he was fantastic that season. You know, and I know he paired up with Lloyd Kelly for most of that season, and you know, in some respects, I kind of was hoping that, you know, Gary Cahill would rub off on Kelly a bit, and you know, Kelly would learn from the experience. But you know, I still seeing them two playing together. I still wish Cookie was alongside Cahill.
Yeah,
To be honest,
agree.
obviously that didn't happen, and this is the situation we're in now. And you know, if Dyer was to come in, he could possibly play that Gary Cahill role where, you know, he is that, you know, that linchpin, that experience that could sit in the back. I mean, even if he comes off the bench a lot, you know, you could be 2-0 up at home against, you know, a top six side, and you chuck Dyer on just to shore up the midfield or shore up the defence a little bit. So
Yeah.
he could definitely play a role. I know what you're kind of saying, you know, does he fit the Bournemouth mould? But, you know, there is times when, you know, players like that will fit in pretty nicely.
And you know, remember there was always that famous line from Alan Hansen years ago: "You can't win anything with kids." And I know that was aimed at Manchester United, wasn't it? But you look at their side even then, and you know they had experience in there. They had the likes of Gary Pallister, Brian
Yeah,
McClare, Dennis Irwin.
yeah,
Whereas you know, I nearly said Steve Irwin there, but he was the crocodile hunter. But yeah, to be honest, I think that might be something we are lacking a little bit. We've got Adam Smith, but really, apart from that, have we got much experience? We've got Neto.
Yeah, Neto is the only real experience we've got in that back line, isn't it?
yeah,
Exactly.
In
And I
goal,
think
yeah.
Adam Smith's game time is going to be quite limited as well. So Eric
yeah,
Dyer would make sense because I think you always need that older head in that side on the pitch, not rather in goal.
It's the same conversation, I guess, with Keith Moore. But would Eric Dyer? I mean, the conversation we're having is that he wouldn't be a guaranteed first team starter. Would Eric Dyer want that? You know, and if he's
yeah,
29, would he want to go somewhere where he is guaranteed to play? I don't know if he wants to sit on the bench. So that's probably another part of this that's not really been discussed. You know, his
yeah,
decision on this. Like he might think, no, I don't want to go sit on the bench at Bournemouth. I'll rather sit on the bench at Tottenham.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
So
true.
yeah, we'll see. But
Be
no,
interesting to see.
that one's going to be interesting over the next day. I mean, that came out of nowhere a couple of hours ago. That wasn't even like sort of rumored, but you know, these things move fast, and with only 24 hours to go, I think Kelly and Kiefer Moore are going to be the two major, and also James Hill as well, which we'll probably come on to as another place potentially could be on the way out. But yeah, I think those three players will probably be the main focal points, and Jamal. Oh, it's Jamal there as well. Yeah, there's quite a few players who actually could be leaving tomorrow. I keep remembering
Yes.
new ones, so it could be a very busy day. And it's better, and because Andoni's already said that he's basically alluded to the fact we need people to leave before we can do any more business. So,
Well, let's
exciting.
have a look at the next player.
James
Hill.
Yeah.
Right. So this is a Blackburn transfer to Blackburn on loan. Now, I watched, of course, I was there for, you know, the first home game of the season against West Ham. James Hill come on, and I was impressed.
Yes, I agree. I was when he came on. I remember, if you remember this, Craig, but when he came on and my Boto said his name, there was just sort of a silence around this ground, a bit like, "Oh, why is James Hill coming on?" But no, he did very well. The last, if he's like last 20 minutes of the game,
Yeah.
when he came on, yeah, I was impressed. He was, wasn't phased. He looked quite confident. So yeah, a move to Blackburn, a big championship club, a big club anyway, would be a great move for him. Obviously, he was at Hearts last year, wasn't it?
Yeah,
He was
yeah,
at, and it was weird because whenever players are on loan, I tend to check in every now and then with the team's fan base to see how players are doing. And when James Hill first signed for Hearts on loan, his first few games, the fans were all very singing his praises, saying he's a great signing. But then I checked in about a couple of months later, and there was a bit of like a bit of unhappiness towards him because apparently there's been a bit of a clash with him and the fans at an away game where they've been chanting, and I don't know, responded to it or something, and he had to put an apology out on social media. So, yeah, I think Blackburn would definitely be a step up from Hearts for a loan move, and I think it'd be great for his development. I think it's sort of make or break for him, really, with this. If he does sign for Blackburn, depending on how he does, could pretty much determine his future with us or whether we sell him. So it's this will be a very important one. So I think, I know Blackburn's been mentioned, but I'm sure there's probably other clubs who are probably interested as well. But yeah, I think it'll be an important move. So if there are multiple teams who are looking at him, I think he needs to choose wisely as to which one to go to. And I mean, looking at the response from Blackburn fans on X, a lot of them were a bit underwhelmed by this and were sort of under the impression that he wouldn't be a guaranteed starter. He would probably be like a second choice, which isn't really what we want if we're sending a player out on loan like James Hill.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to throw a suggestion into the bag here. And my suggestion is, because I think he is good enough to break into the side eventually. I think, he's got a lot of qualities. I think I think he'll start any games this season. Probably not, but I think, he could be in and around that squad. What I would suggest is, if Neil Blake and Richard Hughes are listening, well, to be honest, they probably won't listen to me anyway because they know a bit more. But I would actually let him go till Christmas to Blackburn. Assess it, see what's happening, and then if he's taking Blackburn by storm, then maybe he deserves his chance here. Maybe he deserves his chance of running the first team. You don't know what sort of injuries we might have at that time, and James Hill might be really needed. So personally, I would say a short-term loan move. If everything's going absolutely fine and he's got no chance of breaking into the side, then you might as well let him stay at Blackburn for the season if they still want him there. But I think he's a very, very talented player, and I think he'll do well there.
Yeah. He needs game time, doesn't he? That's the main thing for me. And like watching him during the pre-season, I think it was the Hibernian game. Was it the Hibernian game where he first played right back?
Yeah.
And was it that game or was it the other game?
Yeah, it was Hibernian. Anyway, it was Hibernian, I'm sure, yeah.
Whichever one it was, and he's playing right back, and I thought, well, that's interesting, out of position. And he put a very, very good account of himself. And when he come on against West Ham, he didn't look out of place in that position. So, like you say, he's definitely got a future at this football club. But I think in terms of development, he does need game time. So Blackburn, good club. And maybe, like you say, Craig, maybe do a clause in it that we can recall him in January if we wish. But if there's no room for him in the squad here, then he stays at Blackburn for the season. Hopefully gets game time. But it depends. Then like Colin said, he's lined up to maybe be second choice, and that's not something we really want. If he's going out, he needs to play games. But yeah, that's cool. That'd be a cool move if it worked out well for him.
Let's have a look at the last one. And AFC Bournemouth are struggling to sign Patson Daka from Leicester City due to the high transfer fee demanded by the Foxes. Despite enjoying a good summer, Bournemouth still need an addition in the forward department. Leicester's tough stance on Daka is justified considering his contract situation and age, but they should consider lowering their price tag and inserting a sell-on clause instead if the player wants to leave. Do you know what? Don't want him. I think we've all said that, haven't we?
Yeah, he runs fast, and that's about it.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot on Leicester socials, and my wife's got family in Leicester, and people I've spoken to have all said, please take him off our hands. So I'm going to say a big no to this one. And if he does come in, I hope he proves me wrong, but I don't think he's going to, from what I've heard.
I think what I've heard, well, I say I've heard, what I've seen rumoured is that where we would want a loan whereas they want to sell him with an option to buy. But I think what they're wanting is about 25 million, which is ridiculous money. It's crazy money. So
scored that many goals either. So I mean, no one's going to pay that money for him, surely.
I think they know that. I think they're probably holding out till tomorrow, and then they'll lower the price. But it'd have to be under 10, I would say, to even sort of think about it.
Yeah.
I don't rate him at all.
No,
I don't rate him at all. Well, let's hope that rumor is
bullshit.
There we go. Moving swiftly on.
He's been itching to get that in there.
Yes, I was. So, Iriola on transfer deadline day signings. Iriola told the Daily Echo, more or less, the situation continues the same as we talked about the other day. It will depend on who leaves the club, so we have to substitute. Then also the changes that appear in the market. Normally on the last day, chances appear, and the club has been working on it. So I think we'll be active. I'd be surprised if we don't bring anybody in. I think something will happen. I don't think it's going to be a massive amount. I don't think we're going to sign 4 on transfer deadline day. It's not going to be ridiculous, but I think one in the right place. Maybe 2 might be possible, but I don't think it's going to be extravagant. I think Mark McAdam, if he's going to be down at Dean Court tomorrow, I think he might find it a little bit quiet at certain times. So we shall see. But hopefully, if Patson Daka turns up, he turns right back round again. So
should we just before we move on, going back to the Spurs game and that tackle that seemed to be a good tackle, which now I've watched several times, I think it's an absolutely terrible tackle. Can we just see that again and decide between us whether I'm completely mad and it's a good tackle or whether it's a good tackle, a bad tackle?
Right, let's roll the tape, and this is Colin's video.
Did he get the ball? Did he get the player first?
No, he chopped him down with both of his legs.
You can hear my reaction. When I initially saw it in real time, I thought it was a really good tackle. I sort of went, oh, no. But then watched it back afterwards on TNT Sports. It does look a lot worse. And people have made the point after that tackle that Spurs went up the other end and Richarlison had that chance, which he completely somehow didn't score. People have made the point that if that was to have gone in, would VAR have had a look at it? So
very
interesting. If they would have looked at it, maybe there would be an even bigger debate as to whether it was a foul or not. But I mean, it looks worse. But I think at the time I thought it wasn't. But looking back now, I think it probably was a foul.
Well, to be honest, I was watching this game in India. So I sat watching it,
Nice.
and initially I thought exactly the same. It's not a bad tackle because you saw it in real time, and then of course they replayed it, and I was like, "That's dodgy."
Yeah.
What were the commentators saying then, Craig? Or could you not understand them?
I could understand them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they did turn around and say, he's taking the man, not the ball.
It could have been. Forgetting that, it could have been really bad injury on Semenyo. To be honest with you, like if he landed badly on that could have been a season-ending injury. To be honest,
it looks like if you repeat it back and after what we've seen now, the ball does. He does touch the ball eventually. However, he's taken the man first before the ball, and that effectively is a booking. What he's done there is at least a booking, because he's got the man first, he's chopped the man down, touched the ball. If he touched the ball first and then brought the man down, because it is a contact sport. There's not much, in that. We've seen that before. But then again, we've seen penalties being given for all sorts. But personally, it's a bad tackle.
Yeah.
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 Okay. Glad we covered that, because it's now making me. Because I've just been, like I said, I've watched it on Colin's shorts on his YouTube channel, and I keep watching thinking, no, that's got to be a foul.
Yeah, of course it is. Of course it is, because he's got the man before the ball.
Yeah, it was definitely a foul, but I don't think it would have been a red card or anything like that.
No, definitely not.
No.
Not a red card. But
I think the intention's there to get the ball, but at the end of the day, he's taking the man first. If he got the ball first, then that's a different thing altogether.
Yeah.
Because it is a contact sport. I don't want it to be like where you make a tackle, you win the ball. If the man goes over you, I want that to still play on, regardless of who it's for, because even though that one might have been against us, what happens if that's for us, that sort of opportunity. So you've got to take that with, I think it was a foul, but at the same time, you've got to look at I think referees have got a very difficult job at the moment, considering everything that's going on. There's already been a few mistakes already being made, and I'm going to be controversial here.
Controversial. You really?
The Alexis McAllister sending off against.
Soft.
Yeah, it is soft. It is soft. And Virgil van Dijk the other day, again, that was soft. Yeah, I know Virgil van Dijk lost his head, but
I think it was more of the language he said to the referee, wasn't it? The reason it was a red. That's what I've read recently. I don't know if that's right. But
I think the dissent, he's had an extra. I think the red card was the tackle, but then the challenge, but then the dissent, he's now getting another punishment on top of it. I think after the fact, I think like a fine or an extra ban or something like that.
I think is stupid in a sense, because at the end of the day, years ago, you used to have the likes of Cantona, you used to have the likes of Paul Ince. Who else did we have?
The game was totally different then, Craig, wasn't it? The game was
Vinnie Jones, players like that. You used to love those sort of characters.
Yeah, but they would last 5 minutes in this game now.
Oh no, Vinnie Jones would be sent off every single bloody game. Dennis Wise is another one. He'd be
last.
He might as well just sit in the bath, because he's going to be going back there after 5 minutes.
Great era of football. But anyway,
it'll still be warm.
Can we have a look at a highlight, because I was really happy with this week that this guy has finally got off the mark.
So was I.
What did we think of the game, the cup game this week? I've got a few pointers, but what did you guys make of it?
I think it was decent performance. I think, at the same time, I think we need to now take that into the Premier League. There's no point in, going, okay, we're through to the next round of the cup and then get beat by Brentford. We need to now go, right, okay, we're through to the next round of the cup. Let's, replicate and do all the right things in this next game, because the league is our bread and butter. The Carabao Cup. In fact, I was watching something on Talksport, and it was between Jason Cunday and a Spurs fan. And what the Spurs fan was like, do you know what? I'm not really bothered about being knocked out of the Carabao Cup. And Jason Cundy was giving him a right rollicking for it. And in all honesty, I'm probably with the Spurs fan on this. That, if, say, for example, we was to stay up but get knocked out early in the Carabao Cup and the FA Cup, I would take that, because at the same time, our bread and butter is staying in the Premier League, or getting as far up as possible. Yeah, it would be nice to win a trophy, but at the same time, all it takes is, oh, we're having a bit of a cup run. Oh, we've drawn Manchester City. Cup run probably gone.
I mean, I gotta say, I'm probably with Jason Cundy on this one.
Are you? This is an interesting debate.
I'll tell you why.
Go on.
Because we're comparing two completely different clubs in two completely different positions. Now, from a Bournemouth perspective, you're absolutely right. But when you look at Cundy's argument, Spurs aren't going to get relegated, are they? Let's be honest.
No.
Right? Spurs, in terms of silverware, are massively underachieving.
Yes.
Are they going to win the Premier League? Probably not. So, in theory, I can see where Jason Cundy's coming from. But from a Bournemouth perspective, obviously the league has got to be the bread and butter. You're absolutely right.
Well, here's a question for you. If someone said this season you'll get to, let's say, the FA Cup final, but you'll get relegated, would we take it?
No.
No.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like I think about that one because I think in our where we are currently as a club, I think we would be strong enough to come straight back up if we were to do that. And wouldn't it be nice just to go to Wembley for a cup final? That should be great.
It would be amazing.
I think we could. Yeah, I think we'll be in a position to come straight back up. But yeah, it's an interesting one though. And most people, like you, would say no. So.
It's just the thought of like having to go to Peterborough on a Tuesday night or somewhere
Preston.
like that again, or Preston, or
where we always
Plymouth.
lose.
Where we always lose. You know what I mean? It's like, do you want to go through all that again? But I do see where you're coming from, Colin. I mean, an FA Cup final would be like, out of this world.
It'd be amazing.
It would be unbelievable.
Just to go back to the game though, this game, just to my thoughts on it. I didn't watch it, but I've followed what happened after the fact. And from what I've heard is that the first half we were absolutely awful.
Yeah.
Then we made the changes at half time. We had to bring on Solanke, Kirkes, and Cook at half time, which completely changed the game. There's a game of two halves. It's a bit concerning to me because when I saw the lineups when it's first announced, and I thought that's a really strong lineup. We should be easily comfortable. It was quite concerning that we sort of laboured in that first half, but it was good to see that Andoni did make the changes at half time and it did work. But also potentially shone a bigger light on how our injury crisis is affecting us. I mean, I didn't. I said I didn't watch the first half, but from all the comments I've said, from the comments on social media, apparently we were absolutely awful and could have been 2 or 3 down by half time. And it's we shouldn't have to be bringing on in the second round of the Carabao Cup, bringing on players like Dom or Kirkes to beat a championship, not even a decent championship club. They're towards the bottom of the league, so that was a little bit concerning. But a win's a win at the end of the day. It's good to see that the changes were made to get that win.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if you guys saw or heard or listened on the radio to that first half and how it played out. Any thoughts on how we played in that first half?
I think we were disappointing from what I understand, but I think Iriola's made the right decisions and turned it around.
Yeah, I agree. It's good that he's done that. I mean, I had no issues with the team lineup in that first. When I saw the lineup, I thought it was a good team, good strong team. Shows he's taking it seriously.
Yeah,
but being 1-0 down at half time, not good.
For me, and I said this in the head-to-head that I did with Amy Clement earlier on in the week, that this game for me was all about a confidence boost. To get the win, to get that confidence through the team that that they can win. I actually predicted a 3-0 win because Swansea, as Colin has touched on, are towards the bottom of the championship at the minute. And with what Amy was saying about how the squad is, and it made me feel that we should go up there with the caliber of player we've got. We should go out there and win kind of convincingly. Obviously, Swansea were going to give you a game, but not walk all over them. But the first half performance was, you would have thought Bournemouth were the side near the bottom of the Championship. Do you know what I mean? I mean, that's a worrying thing because, like you say, Colin, no issues with the lineup that was put out there, and I had no issues with it. And looking at it, I thought, pretty solid. We should win it. And to turn out a performance like we did in that first half was not good, really not good.
No.
But the plus side is that obviously, Iriola made his changes, and a win's a win at the end of the day. No matter how many you concede, a win is a win. So I'm just personally hoping that we can, take a bit of confidence into the game against Brentford. On the head-to-head I did with the Brentford fan this week, which is out on our channel now. I've actually predicted a 2-2 draw because I can't back against us. I just can't at the moment, and I think that we're always going to concede, but at the same time, I can see us scoring goals. But I mean, the highlight for me was this guy scoring. This guy is such a talent, and we haven't really been blessed with seeing a lot of him at the minute. Obviously, he had his injury towards the end of last season. He's kind of been on the bench the last few games. And I reckon if this guy can really turn it on, he can really give us a lift, a real lift.
And you can see how much it meant to him as well. He was absolutely ecstatic when he scored that goal, because I think he scored twice before, but they're both offside, weren't they? Before he finally got his goal. And I think, as you say, we've not really had a chance to properly see what he can do. He did come on against Spurs on Saturday and couldn't really get in the game. But obviously, that was always going to be tough against a team like Spurs. So as you say, I hope he can kick on from here, because I think he's going to be a valuable part of our season.
Definitely. So just quickly running through this, asked about Traore's first goal for the club on his 10th appearance. Iriola said he also scored a disallowed goal, which was pretty close for the offside. After he scored the second one, which was valid, we were not finding him in the first half. He had space in the number 10 position. Bit after half time, I think the game was more open. The rhythm was higher, and we could find him between the lines. And he also had time to arrive and try to score like he did. And I really, really rate Traore. I think he's a great player, great youngster, great talent. Has got a great future at this football club. Fingers crossed. And of course, Stoke City in the next round. That game, I believe, is it Octoberish time or end of September?
It is the last week of September. But I think I saw that Stoke have got a game on the Sunday that week, so it could be on the Wednesday night. I've not checked that though. So it'll be, I think it's week commencing the 24th of September, something along those lines.
Colin, you just had some news, haven't you?
Yeah, I've just put in our chat here that it's just looking on Twitter, because I'm constantly looking for any breaking transfer news, and we have some. It's been confirmed. AFC Bournemouth official Twitter or X account have confirmed that James Hill has gone to Blackburn on loan.
There we go.
Excellent.
All confirmed.
Is that for the season, or is that short?
All the best, James Hill. He's joined Blackburn Rovers on a season-long loan.
Fair enough.
That's a great move for him, I think.
Yeah.
Really good.
Yeah, I think so. I think this. He'll be able to show really what he can do. I think he'll be an asset up there, regardless of what the Blackburn fans think at this moment in time. They might be underwhelmed. He isn't the big name that maybe they're hoping for, but at the same time, I'm sure he'll go up there and do his very, very best and show him what he's all about. Well, I think we better wrap it up there. Of course, we do have Brentford this weekend, so do keep tuned. We will be having our panel show after that game as well. So that is the first of those. It is replacing the free-for-alls, so the panel show will turn up probably around about
8 p.m. on Sunday evening.
Yes, and it will be a live show as well, so you can get involved. But Matt, thank you again, and thank you again, Colin. Absolutely pleasure to have you on the channel, and I'm sure we'll be doing some more cherry picking very soon.
Thank you very much for having me. Enjoyed it.
Not a problem at all, mate. Not a problem at all. And you're welcome anytime you want. But until the next show, up the cherries, and we'll see you then. Thank you for joining us.